Hello, Oxygen community. All right. Well, I am super excited to introduce to you our newest coach and trainer. You don't all have to listen to me in the training room now. Tom Thompson is going to join us in the training role here in the Oxygen community. And a nice warm welcome to you, Tom. We are so excited to have you on our team.
Thanks, Kat. I'm really excited about this. Just a chance conversation that you and I had at a random event, and it just hit it off right away. And I love how in line our thoughts are with each other, and I'm looking forward to this opportunity.
Well, good. Awesome. Well, we're going to have a conversation today about coaching and all the things important to you and how you show up as a coach and trainer so that the community can learn a little bit more about you.
Okay.
And hopefully everybody can bring their questions to you after that. So maybe you'll even get some questions in the training room. I can't wait to hear more about it. So let's start with this. What made you want to come to being a coach and a trainer like you show up every day today?
My background is all blue collar work. I grew up in construction. My first job in construction was with a broom sweeping gravel off of a new concrete road for like $8 or $9 an hour. And it just kind of grew from there. And so my background, my dad was worked for Ohio Bell as a lineman. And my roots are just all in blue collar work. And as I've grown up in and worked through very militant style, which is popular in the 80s, very militant style leadership structures. I went to school, went back and finished my degree in 2012. And it really kind of sparked this desire to work with frontline and middle managers and executives to bring sort of that blue collar approach to training. It's the communication part of it is my forte, but there are so many great people that work on our front lines here all over the world. And I just love the idea of being able to sit down and speak with these folks. They feel heard, they feel recognized, and it's amazing to be able to sit down and share those experiences and then to learn from them as they're learning from me.
I love that. All right. So let's put you on the spot right off the rip. Why do you think that Oxygen is the right place for you to come and share the wealth rather than another place for you to be training and coaching?
It starts with you. And that is incredibly cliche. I know it is. I have met with and spoke to other trainers, far larger companies that are doing their buzzword names. And it's just canned responses. It's not real. It's not honest. And sitting with you, you're just an honest, real person who has those same backgrounds, that same blue collar mentality towards your training, that it's more than just sitting down for a couple of hours or for a few minutes with somebody. You really want to help people in whatever way you need to. And that's it. It has to be meaningful for me. It has to be real and honest first and foremost. That's the only way I show up every day, is as long as I know that I get to be my authentic self. And that's what I got from you, is that authenticity. And that's without that, I can't be my best self.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the piece that you can't get out of a book, right? Which is what we say. And I think these are the favorite parts of our conversations. You can get so much information out of a book. In fact, go to Amazon, but it's what your experiences in the world where what you can read in a book doesn't go well, or it doesn't work the way they explain it, then what? And I think that you have so much great experience in those exact situations. You know,
well, and
you have to fire somebody, or the boss gives you direction and maybe it wasn't as clear as they thought it was, or, you know, something like those lines.
And sharing your failures, and you know, that's what you don't get from folks, I think, a lot of times. So they're sharing just their big failures instead of their little failures. Look, I despise working someplace or being someplace where they expect everybody to make certain mistakes. Okay, well, if you expect everybody to make certain mistakes, then every group that comes in is going to make the same mistakes. So you are never going to advance as an organization because you expect everybody to make the same 10 mistakes over and over again. We should be helping people not make those same 10 mistakes, because A new person feels like a failure. You and I have both walked into some giant buildings. My first time walking into a giant warehouse, and it's overwhelming. And I think it's important to share with people just how overwhelming that is for somebody that's in their teens or 20s and has never been anywhere except maybe a high school or an auditorium. And you walk into this giant facility and it's overwhelming for folks. To be able to share how important that is to bring people on and get them acclimated to it in their own way. You and I have shared, I went back to school later in life, and I actually sat down with one of my professors because I didn't understand what he was teaching. I was so far behind because he was teaching it as if I had just gotten out of high school instead of having been out of high school for 25 years.
Yeah.
And he was a younger guy. He was in his 20s or early 30s, super nice guy, not arrogant about it in any way, shape, or form, and said, you know what, I never thought about that before, but you're absolutely right. I teach it as if everybody just learned this last semester that they were in high school. And it changed how he approached me and gave me more time. And actually his explanations in class became easier for everybody to understand.
I love that. It speaks to so many important pieces. You and I both do a significant amount of work in trade schools and with young people, different generations. What do you think is one thing that most young people should be being taught? I don't like to should on people around here, but should be being taught in high schools or trade schools, and something applicable like that today that they're missing? By the way, for those of you who don't see this on my social media, I usually ask this question with some kind of very snarky picture. So you can go back and add to that conversation if you'd like. I have a favorite one that I usually add, but Tom probably hasn't seen that yet. So what's one thing that you think kids should be learning today?
And I appreciate that vamp because it gave me a chance to kind of roll through some things. The carousel went around in my brain a little bit. So
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. I can tell you my favorite one is how to accurately read a tape measure down to the tiny hashtags, because, a lot of kids can't actually read a tape measure. Or my favorite one, for those of you who know I was working in the construction industry, now you can buy the fancy laser that reads it to you. Right. So there's a ton of, the things I should have learned in kindergarten. The things I should have learned in high school was probably how to read a tape measure. So what's one of those real basic skills that you think is lacking?
This is going to be pretty general, but I love those examples. Dawn and I travel a lot, and we've gone back to paper maps because we end up in a place where we don't have any data. And she maps everything out. She's always our navigator. And so we know the miles, and I can check the miles. I read somewhere where kids now are going back to paper maps.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I bring up in every single one of my classes or any group, and I'm usually in with a group of 40 and under for the most part. I had a chance to go and visit Hoover Dam a few years ago.
So pretty.
And aside from my dad jokes about the Transformers and how well they rebuilt it after the destruction, I posed the question to every single one of my classes that I do not believe that we could build the Hoover Dam today if we had a whole bunch of 20 and 30 something engineers. And almost every single one of them agree because the computers have taken out that common sense. How did they know the slump? How did they know that thing wouldn't fall apart? They've got utility poles that have never caved in. So to answer your question, I think we've gotten away from the basics and the simplicity of tasks. A tape measure. I've taught people how to use a broom and dustpan because they don't have to use a broom and dustpan. And that's not a knock against those folks.
Sure.
They ask Alexa to run the Zumba, and Zumba takes off and vacuums the house, right? My two oldest kids are incredibly busy, and they actually have somebody who comes in and takes care of their house cleaning once a week because they've got a toddler and they both have full-time jobs, and it makes it easier. Tape measure, broom and dustpan, the simple things in life. I think every single person that I talk to, folks that I coach, I think it's important to go back and remember our roots wherever those were. And it helps us be better at our level that we're at because we understand all of those basics over and over again. And I don't think we should ever forget those.
Yeah. It's very interesting. I feel like my parents, when they used to say you have to do this one thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's now coming out of my mouth. What the heck? But there's some real value to it. And we have to maybe be conscious of the fact that we don't negate those skills for young kids.
Both of my daughters, when they went to college, I got them a little toolkit because they wanted to be able to hang their own pictures. So they each had a torpedo level. They did not have the little Tikes hammer. I got them a real hammer, a real tape measure, screwdrivers. They had, because they came to me and said, I want to be able to decorate my apartment at college. I want to be able to decorate my room. And so I was not going to get them that little $1.50 one at the checkout. They got real tape measures, and they still have those toolkits today.
Yep, absolutely. I totally agree. I used to work with a therapist going through my divorce for people who are up for my risque comments. And she used to say every divorced woman should have a black lace bra and a drill, a cordless drill, so she can take care of her house and still have a feminine side to her. And it's not a sexist comment even. It's just how can you do both? You can have both, and which is,
my girls know how to change a tire on their car. I don't ever want them. My wife is very strong. Dawn would never want them to feel stranded, like they have to rely on somebody to change a tire.
Yeah.
My girls know how to change tires. My youngest daughter just put a battery in her car because she was not going to pay somebody to put a battery in her car.
I love that. That's so good.
Right?
That's so good.
She called me so proud. She's like, Dad, look what I just did. I put a battery in my car.
Well, for those who've known me my entire life, the first time I got a flat tire, was with my brother. It was Thanksgiving morning, very early. We were going from one parent to another, and he put my spare on and put my lug nuts on backwards. So even my brothers screw things up.
Oh man.
All right. So tell me, what's your least favorite thing to coach on, do you think?
That's a great question. I don't know that I have, and I despise that response too. That's a great question, and I just did it. Ugh.
By the way, I'm known for really great questions because I feel like it's kind of my job. So thank you for that.
I am too, but I of course it's a great question because you put it out there, and then we fill. It's like a filler. Oh, that's a great question. Just ugh. I don't know that I have anything that I dislike training on. I dislike training people who don't think they need any training at all, that they already know everything.
So what do you do when you're confronted with that?
You have to be careful not to show them that they aren't right about everything, because you're just going to put up a wall, and it becomes a game of this is what I'm. If you try to tell somebody they're wrong, they're going to put up those defenses. But you can't necessarily show them what they don't know, because especially in a public forum, or if you're in a class and they're talking about those things, I think it's important to coach folks on what you do know. And it might take a while. I've had this before where almost everything that I do, somebody's challenging me and questioning me on my methods or my theories or my approach. And that's fine. You and I both have talked about this. I welcome that. Tell me that you don't agree with me, and let's have a conversation about it. Don't tell me I'm wrong. Go ahead and tell me you don't agree with me, and we can have a conversation. I'm willing to change. Those things take time. Eventually, every single person has that aha moment, and you've shown them just that one little piece, and not in a way that is disrespectful to who they think they are, or in any way, especially if you're in a group of folks and that hierarchy of respect is within the group. You definitely don't want to do that, because you'll never get a conversation from them. I like asking those folks, what's your opinion? And have them share that in a way that works for the whole group. And a lot of times you'll ask folks and they don't really have a great way of expressing it, or maybe they just automatically say, I don't need training because somebody told them. But yeah, I think helping folks share some of the knowledge that they have and creating that forum for them brings them, it encourages the conversation between me and them. And as long as I can control the conversation as long as I initiate it. So even by asking somebody a comment, I'm still controlling that part of the conversation and helping to bring them in so that they can try to understand the content in their way. And I also want to understand why they don't think that they need any training. What is it about what they already do that gives them the impression that they don't need to have any additional training?
Yeah, I always appreciate people who enter training as very experienced, very seasoned in their role contributors who are under the impression that they're coming to training for some earth-shattering aha, they're leaving as some huge changed individual, right? And sometimes for them, it's just that recognition that maybe you'll take one thing, or maybe you're just there to acknowledge for those coming behind you that it's okay to be here.
Right.
And that's enough. And I think that there's this huge misconception that your experience in all that it is, just being in training is enough. You don't have to be there for some huge aha. Be a contributor to my conversation.
Right.
And you know, I always tell people you're the best combination of your experiences, your education, and your opinion. All three together make you you. If I take one of those from you, all you are is a flat line, and none of us are two-dimensional. So I want you to come to the conversation with your experiences. I want you to come and contribute to the conversation. So I love that. Even if you think that you're not ready for training, come help me, please. By all means, tell me all about it.
Well, and what if the person that does have all of that knowledge doesn't know how to publicly share that knowledge? Right? Everybody's terrified of public speaking. What if they don't know how to publicly share it? Or what if that's the first time you and I get a chance to ask somebody, well, share your experience with me, and other people start relating to that experience? If they don't get any information from you and I, but they go back to the office or go back to the homes or go back to their groups of friends, and they know what it feels like to share information that helps somebody, that's a huge take too.
Yeah, the value of being heard. I always find we have a client here at Oxygen who, when the first time we got this person, I had been warned, oh, it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough to have this person in your class. And really what we found was he had a really rough speech impediment. And he was shy to share virtually. And as soon as he realized it was a safe space that he could actually share, he was the most honest, most authentic person. And we got the best information from him. Right? That's the best kind of person. So I think that, kudos to you to be able to be that type of facilitator. We're excited to have you as a part of the team anyways, but to know that those types of people don't throw you, even when they're your least favorite person to have in the room. And you're like, oh gosh, this is it. Right.
I love the challenge. And you and I talked about, some of the things coming up, and I mentioned this. I love challenges of working with different groups of people. And I despise being told about individuals. And one of the things I coach on is I don't want new supervisors reading files, because then you begin this preconceived notion. Yeah. But almost always we end up with, oh, this is a really tough group, you're going to have a hard time getting through to them. Oh, this is a tough group, you're going to have a hard time. Well, I pride myself on being different than the person there before and being able to listen differently. And especially as an outside facilitator, you don't have that internal turmoil or what that organizations have. And I have never found that I've never had a silent group. Every single one of those, you're going to have a really difficult time with this group. They end up being some of the most talkative, and people don't understand, how that's possible. But I think a lot of listening, that authenticity, again, sharing stories, letting people know you're vulnerable, sharing those experiences. And that's the difference with you and I is it's not just somebody that you're supposed to stand up there and listen to. We actually want you to engage, challenge us, think about the things. If you're challenging me, it's because you're thinking, and I'm glad you're challenging me because you're actually listening to the content and you don't like what you heard. And so that's effective right there. It at least shows that you showed up mentally and you wanted to get something from it.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so let's finish up with one more question for you, and then we'll let you go today. What is your favorite coaching tip if you had to give it to managers, owners, employees, kids coming into their first job, maybe? What is the one thing that you wish everybody knew from you as a coach and a trainer?
Favorite coaching tip, employee or manager?
Yep, you got it. What's the wisdom that you impart?
Don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to remind yourself that you're not the first one that's gone through this, especially as a new employee and especially as a new supervisor or anybody that's been newly promoted into a role. All of those apprehensions that you have, the questions, the imposterish ideas that you have about not belonging, the question as to whether how you got there, everybody's had those. Find a mentor. That's something that I don't think a lot of people do. Find that one person that you can lean on and ask those questions, whether it's somebody that's lateral to you, if you find somebody a manager that you're comfortable speaking to, anybody that you can ask questions, and just take your time and have fun.
Yeah, I love that. Well, we're super excited. You guys can find Tom in the training room opposite me when my smiling face is not there. You guys can all be super excited. Make sure that you challenge him with all your good questions and comments. You can also say hello to him on all of our social media channels. And we tell everyone to take just a little bit of time to breathe life in. Welcome to the team, Tom.
I love you. Thanks. Appreciate it.